All right, your Miami Dolphins bounced back and improved to 4-1 on the season after a 31-16 win over the New York Giants at Hard Rock Stadium. It wasn't the prettiest win, but at the end of the day, a win is a win, and they got it done. But getting into the stats quickly, Tua Tagovailoa, 22 for 30, 308 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. Like I said, wasn't the prettiest day. On the ground, Devon Achane, 11 carries, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, that touchdown was 76 yards, an average of 13.7 yards per carry, which is absolutely absurd. Raheem Mostert, 10 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown run was also 23 yards, but I'm going to talk about these running backs in a bit, but it's looking like Devon Achane has the upper edge in that running back room. In the receiving game, Tyreek Hill had once again a crazy game. 8 receptions, 181 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, that touchdown went for 69 yards to open up the second half. Cedric Wilson Jr. loves to talk about him. 4 receptions, 52 yards. Jalen Waddle, 5 for 35, and a touchdown. That's what opened up the game for the Dolphins. Devon Achane, 1 for 14. Mostert, 2 for 13. Same with Berrios, 2 for 13. And sacks. It was the number one thing I talked about in the preview. The Dolphins were able to get to Daniel Jones, and this time they were actually able to bring him down. So, 7 sacks on the game for this team. Sealer had 2. Jerome Baker, 1.5. Emmanuel Ogbah, 1.5. Andrew Van Ginkel had 1, but he was all over the field today. And Eli Apple, Christian Wilkins both had half a sack. Love seeing that. Love being able to talk about that. So, 7 sacks for the team. Now with the New York Giants, Daniel Jones, 14 for 20, 119. Tyrod Taylor was in for the end of the game, 9 for 12 with 86 yards for him. On the ground, Eric Gray was running back 1 for this team, no Saquon. 12 carries for 25 yards. Daniel Jones, 4 for 24. Matt Breida, 9 for 21. The rush defense was really, really good today. That's going to be the first thing I talk about right when I'm done with this. In the receiving game, Darren Waller, 8 for 86. He was basically the MVP of the game for the Giants. Darius Slayton, 2 for 35. Paris Campbell, 2 for 23. Isaiah Hodgins, 2 for 19. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, 5 for 18. They did have 2 interceptions. Jason Pinnock had 1 that was returned to the house, 102 yards. Very unfortunate, but like I said, it doesn't really matter because they got blown out anyways. Bobby Okereke, 1 interception, which was just, I don't know where Tua was throwing. But we'll get to that in a bit. Starting out with the defense, like I said I was going to start out with. Big time bounce back game for them. Now, when I made the preview for this game, I titled that video "Will Tua Bounce Back?" and I realized that I probably should have named the video "Will the Dolphins defense be able to bounce back?" because that game was not on Tua, and Tua actually played worse in this game than he did in the Buffalo game last week. But this defense just let up 48 points a week ago in Buffalo. And finally, they showed out. And what the final score, they put up 13 points, I'm pretty sure. 16 points, but they had the pick 6. So basically 9 points. 9 points the defense was able to allow, which is great. You love seeing that. Of course, no Saquon Barkley for this team. They don't have any type of Pro Bowl receivers. Darren Waller's a stud, though. And Daniel Jones wasn't even in for the full game. But, the defense is supposed to do these types of things to teams that aren't very good, especially on offense. So credit to them. Vic Fangio did play well, or he didn't play, but he coached a good game. And Andrew Van Ginkel, I want to talk about him for a second because no Jalen Phillips in this game. Jalen Phillips was inactive, which isn't a great sign, but the fact that he was questionable for this game on the final practice, which tells me that he might be back next week versus Carolina, but will we even really need him? Maybe we just let him rest next week, let Andrew Van Ginkel take his spot because I'm about to talk about him, but then we have the Eagles the week after Carolina, so maybe just let him rest for that Sunday night game in Philly. But Andrew Van Ginkel, man, he stepped up in a big-time way, and he's basically, the Zach Sealer of last year, because he was the guy that broke out. He was the guy that got the contract extension, and we re-signed him. When Vic Fangio was hired as the defensive coordinator, he personally called Andrew Van Ginkel and re-signed him himself instead of Chris Greer having to do that work. Our defensive coordinator signed a player, and that, of course, was AVG. So, I think he's on that 1-year deal, kind of just to see what he can do in this system, but a lot of these guys won't be back next year. Jerome Baker probably won't be back next year. We'll see what happens with Xavier Howard. Maybe he can pick it up towards the end of the year. He didn't have a bad game today, which is, good for him. Eli Apple, I don't know if he'll be back. Christian Wilkins is going to be a very, very interesting player that we're going to have to keep eyes on, of course, when free agency comes next spring. But Andrew Van Ginkel has been playing so good in the time where Jalen Phillips has missed time, and Jalen Phillips has been out for maybe 2.5 games so far this year, and AVG has just stepped up in every single snap that he's played in for him. So you love to see that. But I guess we'll talk about that pass rush other than Van Ginkel because I just ranted about him. Sealer played great. Like I said, 2 sacks for him, and the run defense was great today too. Eric Gray couldn't get anything going on the ground. Neither could Matt Breida, but of course, who expected that with no Saquon Barkley? Christian Wilkins was there, but was he really? I mean, he's getting doubled and tripled every single play so far this year. But, I mean, you know what I mean? If he wants that contract, he's still got to show up in those types of moments. But, of course, with all that attention going to Christian Wilkins, that's where Zach Sealer pops up, and he's definitely showing us why we gave him that extension, and that's why we were so excited about it when we realized that we extended him. But the secondary was good. Javon Holland had a couple of passes deflected. It was great seeing Deshaun Elliott back there because Brandon Jones last week wasn't good at all in coverage, and of course that was against the Bills when this was against the Giants, but either way, you can clearly tell the difference it makes when Deshaun Elliott is out there next to Javon Holland rather than Brandon Jones. That's another guy that probably won't be back next year because he doesn't really fit the Vic Fangio system. Who else? Kader Cole, great bounce back game for him as well. I mean, he was getting torched by Stephon Diggs. I think all 3 of his touchdowns were scored on him last week. And his open field tackling is just so good. The highlight of the day for him was that screen pass that he just completely tore down, ran through the blocking defender and just ran through the blocking receiver and just completely tackled the guy who caught the ball. Great play by Kohu and great game for him. Eli Apple is so inconsistent, man, because I literally remember specifically. I don't remember the exact play it was, but I just remember saying, "Way to go, Eli," because that's what I say after every single play to whoever made the play. I say, "There you go, Eli," and the next play I'm like, "Come on, Eli." It's on and off. I mean, it was always the Darren Waller slants that he was guarded for, and they never learned to press up on those slants, and it was 3rd and short, and they would always go to the slant with Darren Waller. That's why he had 8 receptions, and they never adjusted it, and whatever, we won the game by double possession, but still, Eli Apple is just so inconsistent, makes one great play, then the next is just a terrible play, but either way, the defense played a great game. Like I said, not much to talk about it. Hopefully we get the same thing versus Bryce Young and the Panthers next week. They're 0-5 coming into Miami, so it would be really embarrassing if the offense randomly started showing up, but there's no reason why this defense shouldn't have multiple interceptions and at least 5-6 sacks next week. But talking about the offense before wrapping this video up, you know what? I'm excited about this team, and not even just from this game, but the fact that the Dolphins put up 30 points today with 500 plus yards, and the fans are disappointed because we didn't play well, and that's just so great. And it, of course, like I said, it wasn't the prettiest game. 2 interceptions. We had 3 total turnovers. Of course, 2 of those were the interceptions, but then a Devon A-Chain fumble. So 3 turnovers today to a team who hasn't forced a single turnover all year. The Giants have 3 forced turnovers all year. Those were all today, which sucks. But at the same time, they're all learning lessons. The first one was that pick 6 at the end of the first half, where you just can't make that mistake if you're Tua. Of course, the play is designed for you to make that pass, but when you see 3 defenders right on Jalen Waddle, I'm pretty sure the receiver was, you just don't make that throw. You don't try to fit it in. It was tipped up, and then the guy picked it off and ran it all the way back. And Tyreek, I think, pulled a hamstring on that play because he wasn't in for the next drive where they drove down and scored the field goal before the end of the half. But he ended up playing the second half, and of course, opened the second half with that touchdown. But you just don't make that pass if you're Tua, and of course that resulted in a 14-point swing. So it didn't really matter in this one because we ended up getting the win in the second half. But against a really good team, you're not going to have that second chance to come back in the second half. But post interception Tua is a play that the Dolphins fans really like, and of course, like I said, after that interception, we drove down, scored a field goal, went into half down or up 7, and then came into the second half and Tyreek hit a 70-yard touchdown on like the 3rd or 4th play of the second half, which was great. And then the next offensive drive, he threw another pick, and I don't know where that was going. I'm pretty sure his arm hit Connor Williams' helmet. That's what I heard. But his feet weren't planted. He was like off balance, and it was just you just can't make that type of mistake either if you're Tua. So, it wasn't the prettiest game from the offense, but they ended up getting it done. Tyreek Hill once again just completely he just really owned this game. Waddle scored a touchdown finally, but he's yet to really have that big time game. 5 receptions for 35 yards. It's not what you expect from a guy like Jalen Waddle. He hasn't really had that big time game yet. I think it's coming up. I think he's due for one. I wouldn't mind if it's versus the Eagles, but I would love to see it live in person next week versus Carolina. But talking about the rushing really, really quickly. Devon Achane, it looks like he has the upper edge in this running back room because he had 11 carries today. So did Raheem Mostert basically, or 10, whatever. They basically split carries. And Achane had 100-something yards and a touchdown, and Raheem Mostert only had 60-something yards. Salvon Ahmed was a healthy scratch today. Chris Brooks actually played too because he played for some time. I don't really know why, but he did over Salvon Ahmed, which was pretty interesting to me. But either way, Devon Achane looks like the offensive rookie of the year. So right now, if the season were to end today, I don't know about after today's performance, but the MVP, I know Tua is like probably top 2 or 3 in voting odds right now. So let's just hypothetically, if Tua wins MVP, Tyreek Hill is probably the favorite for Offensive Player of the Year because Justin Jefferson got injured today, so that might set him back for the award a bit. And then I think Devon Achane's got to be the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year so far, or maybe it's Puka Nacua. But other than him, I mean, dude, the Dolphins have 3 award winners on their team right now. And then, let Jalen Phillips come back and he'll be there for DPOY. Probably not. I'm just making that up. But either way, I'll probably be back for the deep dive tomorrow because there's a lot of more things I want to talk about, especially before they play Carolina next week. But if we're speaking realistically, the Dolphins are 4-1. They play the Panthers, who haven't won a single game all year yet. They should be 1-5 a week from today. They should be. It'd be real embarrassing if they weren't. But yeah, the Dolphins should be 5-1 a week from today. And then they have a big, big game going to Philadelphia, who they haven't lost yet. They're 5-0 right now. They just beat the Rams today. It wasn't a complete blowout, but they look better. And yeah, I mean, we'll see if the Eagles lose next week. I don't really know who they play, but either way, let's not focus on the Eagles game. Let's just focus on celebrate this win tonight and then back to work tomorrow against the Panthers. But I'm excited for that game because I really don't see a way that we lose that game versus Bryce Young and Carolina. Either way, that'll wrap up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day.